Hey friends, it is your well woman. It's LaShanna Moore. You've tapped into another great episode of Living Well with LaShanna. Our mission is to help you live, age, be well and whole. As a practitioner, a researcher, and an advocate, I want to give you practical tools to put into your utility belt. I want to educate you and even give you some smiles and some laughter while we journey through this thing called life, and we are trying to do it as best as we can. So, we're going to have a conversation about sexual wellness, which has often been a taboo topic, but we are removing that stigma because sexual wellness extends far beyond just self exploration, self pleasure, sexual exploration, sexual pleasure. It is a huge part of how we live, age, and be well and whole. So, y'all, if you know me, you know I've got my notes up. I've taken time to prepare for this episode. So, I'm going to go to my notes because I want to talk to you about how we can live longer and better by taking care of our sexual health through our hormones. All right. So, let's get into this conversation. Our hormones are chemical messengers, they regulate virtually every function of our bodies, from the metabolism to our immune system, our reproductivity, our reproduction system, and our mood. And this is for men and women. Let me also say that I welcome the men into this particular podcast episode. We are about women, for women, but there are conversations like these that our men need to be a part of. Let me also set at the beginning of this talk that there may be some trigger points as we talk about sex exploration, or sexual experience. I have a pretty wide demographic, and so each of you are going to look at this conversation through a certain lens, your worldview, based on your beliefs, your ideas, your experiences, and things like that. All right. So I wanted to put that out there as we start. But our hormones are very important. Now, the body produces over 50 hormones. We're talking about sex hormones today: metabolism, immune function, reproduction, and mood. They are responsible for balancing and helping us flow and helping us grow. I have some research here from the National Institute on Aging that suggests that hormonal balance plays a crucial role on healthy aging. So we're all about removing the stigma of ageism. We have role models now that are showing us how we can age well and still live actively, still be very involved in our lives. And I think all of us want that, right? And we want to do it as naturally as we can. So in order to achieve that, let's talk about some sex hormones, and let's talk about longevity stats, because we all about the stats. As a researcher, I'm all about the stats. All right, I got to start with my ladies. Women with balanced estrogen levels throughout our lives, we have about 24% lower chance of cardiovascular disease. This is according to the Women's Health Initiative. So our goal is to try to balance hormones. Now, that can sound virtually impossible when we think about the word balance, especially as we venture into our pausey seasons. The studies are showing us that women that maintain healthy progesterone levels will experience 18% less cognitive decline. Why cognitive? Because our estrogen and our hormones do affect our brain health, our neurological function, our cognitive function, in as much as it does our metabolism, our energy levels, and our reproduction health. Fellas, the same with you. I'd like to encourage us to look into different hormone therapies, because as we age, we are going to naturally lose some of that estrogen that we need. We need them. We need them. All right, men, let's talk about you real quick. Approximately 22% lower cause of mortality if they are at their optimum. Testosterone health is important for you, for your metabolism, for your mood, for your heart, to lower the risk of diabetes, and also to have a healthy sexual life. It is important. You talk about aging well, and if you've ever had conversation with our elders or with our older men and women, and we ask them, what do you do to keep yourself alive, to keep yourself living with joy and with excitement? A lot of them still engage in some form of intimacy, in some form of sexual enjoyment. Granted, it may not be the same as it was in their 20s or in their younger years, and even for some of you as well who have not reached that age 70 plus, 80 plus, 90 plus. But it is important to the longevity of our lives because our sexual hormones dictate so much. All right, so there was this hormone study done from Duke University, and it found that men who had sex at least twice a week had 50% lower death rate compared to those who had sex less frequently. All right, pause, breathe. We all got opinions on that. We all have our own reality surrounding that. For women, regular sexual activity is associated with higher levels of estrogen. Higher levels of estrogen also protect our cardiovascular health, and I can attest to the whole cardiovascular thing because being a woman in perimenopause, I have recognized how my body responds to exercise, how it responds to cardio, how it responds to my blood sugar being imbalanced. Some of you who are in your peri/posy seasons have noticed the change in your blood pressure or your cholesterol, triglycerides. And listen, it's not always because we're living dormant, lazy, idle lives. Many of us are active. Many of us exercise, work out, eat relatively well, try to monitor our sleep patterns, and our mood, and all of that stuff. Well, cardiovascular is linked to estrogen. But what also helps to optimize estrogen and optimize our aging well, according to this study, is regular sexual activity. I'd like to insert in here for all of us that we have to discover what range and what type of sexual activity works for us. What is operable? What is functional? What is reasonable for us? Only you can determine what that looks like. I'd also like to insert the reality of intimacy, being connected, getting that love hormone, that oxytocin, that touch. It helps to reduce inflammation. It also helps to improve immunity. Breathe, take a beat. Now we understand why sexual wellness is so important. I want to also make you aware of how large sexual wellness engages itself individually, relationally, familially, which means your family health outcomes, public health, reproductive health, hormone care, health care, our communities. Sexual wellness is important, crucial, it's essential part of our life. How we live, how we age, our hormones, what they're doing, and when to know that we need some help, some assistance. Now, there's no shame in it because these are natural occurrences of life. Some of them are natural progressions of life. And then life is also going to manipulate the way that our hormones respond and behave at times. So I want us to continue to learn and educate ourselves and to grow so that we can remove these stigmas and this shame out of the conversation. All right, pause. I want to ask you a question. How were you taught about sex? How were you introduced to sexual education? Were you in school? Was it a parent or a set of parents? Was it your peers, the digital space, through porn, TV, commercials, adult cartoons? How were you introduced? Because that also is going to frame the way that we interpret, perceive, set ideas and beliefs around sexual wellness. How much we understand about hormones and how they work. And now, understanding through data and research how it affects our longevity. Average lifespan for men is 75.8 years. And out of 75.8 years, data shows us that 9.8 years can be spent in poor health. Women, we're living a little longer, 81.1 years. And out of those years, that average 12.4 years are spent in poor health. Poor health can be attributed to a lot of variables. The most common of them all is our hormone health. Our hormone health is linked to our metabolic health, y'all. It is linked to our immunity. It is linked to our energy. It is linked to our reproductive. It is linked to our cardiovascular. It is linked to our skeletal health. Hormones rule the body. So, yes, they affect our longevity. Look, we don't want to just live a long life. We want to live a good life, a good quality life. We see what happens when people are isolated, when they are experiencing loneliness. And that, again, can be familial, that can be relational. Even if you are single, there needs to be some form of intimacy in your lives. Now, intimacy does not have to be attached to sex. Remember, I called oxytocin that love hormone. It is the hormone of touch, a hug, some form of affection. This is another reason why 2020 hit us so hard. It was not just about how it changed the landscape of living every day, but it isolated us. It kept us from being able to reach out to each other, to shake a hand, to hug somebody, to pat somebody on the back, to exchange affections toward each other. You see how all of this is working together to determine our quality of life and our longevity of life? So this is very twofold. It is about how our lifestyles are structured, because let's also be sensitive in understanding that everyone does not have the same access to intimacy, to love, to an invitation of being embraced. You are in a change of life. Maybe you're in a divorce. Maybe you're separated. Maybe you're a widow. This is wellness, y'all. This is the holistic conversation surrounding sexual wellness and longevity, right? When we think about all of these different scenarios and aspects of life and transitions of life, I want you to walk away thinking about how you can increase your sexual well-being, hormone health. All right, let's expand the conversation here. Hormone health, that is your brain, your cardiovascular, your mood, your metabolic. To think about how you can improve all of these areas. And listen, intimacy is also community. Maybe for you in this season of life, that's going to look like adding new community to your world. Meetups, it can be in the digital space. It also needs to be in real time. Sexual wellness, individual, relational, familial, community, public health, health care, reproductive care, hormone care, all of the things, longevity. We don't want to just crawl to the finish line of life, honey. We want to walk over that line and say, hey, I'm done. I'm ready to get out of here.